Dr. Theophilus, here in this miracle, Jesus healed this sick man, and he mentioned that the water was troubled, and then everyone came first will be healed. And the question is if there is any relation between healing and water, because again in chapter 9 of John we have the miracle of healing Bartimaeus, the blinded man born this way, and Jesus used his saliva with the mud and put in his eye and asked him to go to the pool and also to be washed, and he came with sight. So what is the relation between healing and water? If Jesus intended to do that, the mic is yours.
In the ancient world, water was regarded as one of the four most important elements in the world. There was earth and air and fire and water, I believe. And water was so terribly important because you can't live without water. So all of your ancient cities were found close to a lake or a river or a stream or a spring. And so waters were treasured. And the ancient world even had an element of fear about water. In the ancient world, they thought that there were spirits in everything, in trees, in water, in buildings, in caves, in all sorts of places. And sometimes they also attributed healing to water. I don't think this is the connection for Jesus, but water was just a symbol, as it's used in the Gospel of John, of life. Because where water went, life sprang up. For instance, if you have a desert, you have little growing material, but if you come to an oasis where there's water, well, you have palm trees and birds, and life springs up. So water becomes a symbol of two things, cleansing and life. And in this case, however, there was often a great deal of superstition attached to certain waters because if they were in some way a little bit different. That's why I put in my lecture, I don't know if it came across, but what if this man finally, after 38 years, got in the pool first after the water was troubled and he wasn't healed? That would have been terribly, terribly discouraging. We don't know if anybody was really healed by these waters. Still today, in some countries, including the one where I live, there are areas where there are hot springs or some unusual mineral content in the water. And up until very recently, they ascribed healing properties to these waters. It may be that in certain areas, because of a deficiency of a certain mineral, that this mineral being present in certain springs or something might have brought a measure of healing. I think it was a Greek physician, may have been Thucydides, but I'm not sure. He said, "Give me enough heat and I can cure anything." What the Greeks did then, they would heat rocks with fire and then throw them into water, and then the water would come out as a shower or in the baths, and they had hot water. And healing does take place to an extent in heated water, depending on what the illness or the problem is, because heat causes the blood circulation to change, to come to the surface. And as you know, the body, when it is fighting a disease, will often throw a fever. And it's the fever which kills the bacteria or the virus. But I think there's no particular significance in Jesus sending a man to the waters of Siloam to be cured of his blindness. Jesus used very different ways in which he performed his miracles. He didn't always put a little mud pack in people's eyes in order to heal their eyes. And one occasion he did. Similarly, one occasion he stuck his fingers in a man's ears, and said, "Be open," but he didn't always do that. These actions were symbolic of what is desired. The water here would be a symbol of cleansing and therefore of healing. But I don't believe that the waters actually had any healing powers. But this isn't something that I can speak with any authority on. It's a matter of belief. The verse 4 that talked about when the waters, an angel came down and troubled the water, and then they thought, now there's healing power in it. That verse is not found in the earliest Greek manuscripts. It was added by some later scribe who was explaining why people thought that when the water was disturbed or stirred, it had healing power. But it was not in the original manuscript that John wrote. And so that's why most of your modern Bibles drop the verse about an angel coming and troubling the waters. I hope this helps.